everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Ex Post Watcho, your favorite movie retrospective podcast. My name is Jason. I'm joined, as every week, by my friend and co-host, Ilana. How are you doing today, Ilana?
I'm doing great. How are you, Jason?
I'm good. I'm ready to go back in time to simpler times, to the year of 1996/sometime in the 60s, as we watch That Thing You Do, starring and directed by Tom Hanks.
Oh, yeah, I forgot he directed this.
He did. This was his directorial debut.
Nice.
I have no idea what else he directed.
I was just going to ask you. Okay.
I did not do that research.
We'll do it for the second part.
So I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but have you seen this movie before?
Yes, I used to really like this movie. I saw it a bunch of times when it first came out. I haven't seen it for a really long time, probably 10 years or more. I will start off my assessment of it by saying I used to be in love with one of the actors in this movie who plays the lead singer, Jonathan Sheck, I think is how you say his name.
Oh, the douchey guy.
You know, I have horrible taste at times. Yep.
So
the douchey guy.
By the end of the movie, when you realize he's the douchey guy, are you still into him? Or are you like, fuck that, I want Tom Everett Scott, the cool guy?
No, I'm not into Tom Everett Scott. I never was. At no point is he appealing to me. But I gotta say, Steve Zahn is. He's one of my favorite maybe people that is in the public eye of all time. So
Steve Zahn, I'm convinced, doesn't actually act. He is just brought into movies to be Steve Zahn. And he thinks it's all real, whatever's happening around him. But it works.
It's great.
I like Steve Zahn. He's fun to watch.
He has a fantastic Instagram account. Everyone should go check it out.
So this movie's the story of a band of teenagers in the 60s. They're like wrapping up high school, and they write a song, and it goes big. And the song, That Thing You Do, is really good. It's a great song. I like it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be stuck in my head for weeks, I can guarantee.
It's good that you like it, because I remember it being played quite a lot in this film.
Yeah, it was written by Adam Schlesinger, who is, or unfortunately was, the bassist for the band Fountains of Wayne. He passed away recently, but he wrote the song.
Oh, nice. I did not know that.
I saw this around the time it came out when I was a kid. It would have been like a rental. I didn't rent to the theaters to see it. And
yeah.
My memory of it is very positive. I remember it being like, it's kind of a coming of age story. It's kids on the precipice of adulthood, hitting the real world, I guess, in the context of the music industry. And there's some romance and love triangle action going on.
Liv Tyler, right?
Yep.
I love her too.
She's the girlfriend. I mostly associate her now with that show, The Leftovers, and she's interesting in that.
Yeah.
Well, let's take that conversation offline.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun times. Got a good cast. I'm hoping it'll be a good movie. I would be surprised if I was disappointed by it. I think I saw it like maybe a decade ago, and I was like, yeah, I still love this movie.
Yeah, I think it's a fun movie. You got a little bit of drama, a little music, a little love story, a little comedy, likable cast. I also predict that I think it'll hold up.
Tom Hanks can't do any wrong. I was having a conversation years ago when, a lot of celebrities were making the news for past indiscretions. And we were like, who is the one that you would be most crushed by if that kind of news came out? And Tom Hanks was and continues to be my answer. Tom, don't do anything wrong ever, because I can't handle it if that's the case.
I agree. I think he's much beloved by all of us. Some people are kind of gonzo on the Tom Hanks train. I'm not one of those like super fans, but I agree with you that if there was any scandalous information proved to be true, because I think he's part of that whole right-wing conspiracy theories shit that's
the airplanes and the islands.
Yeah, and he's eating babies and drinking their blood and shit.
Well, if you want to direct movies as good as That Thing You Do, sacrifices have to be made.
The power must be sourced from someplace.
Yeah. So with that plea to Tom Hanks to not be some kind of horrible sex criminal, let us go watch and enjoy That Thing You Do. All right, we're back. We watched it. Ilana, I'll put you on the spot. What did you think watching That Thing You Do again?
I really enjoyed watching That Thing You Do again. I think I'm going to be singing this for months. I think I don't know, it's just as much fun as it was when I first watched it. There's nothing super spectacular about it, but I just really love it. I think it's great. I love the music. It's got a whole vibe. I think the cast is really great. Yeah, I had a great time watching this. What about you?
This movie does have a vibe. Yeah, I feel the same. Like my memory of it was positive. I'm pretty sure every time I've seen it, I've liked it. I think it's interesting because it's like clearly a boomer nostalgia piece, just by being a 90s movie set in the 60s. Like there was kind of a lot of that going on, and Tom Hanks was involved in a lot of that. I had this realization thinking back that like, oh, that is kind of like what Tom Hanks's thing is. Certainly in the 90s, and I guess today he's doing Mr. Rogers, and
right.
I think of Captain Phillips as a nostalgia piece because it's set in 2010, and that just seems like better times than 2020, so it counts. Yeah, but also like I found it nostalgic because it came out when I was like a teenager, and this is a movie about I thought they were teenagers. I forgot. I think they're actually in their early 20s. I realized that watching it this time. But it's sort of like, it's a coming of age story. And I was in a band in high school, and I wouldn't say our experiences were, identical to this movie. But there was just enough of the sort of like band music stuff that I also kind of connected with and reminded me of. So yeah, feel pretty positive about it. Music's good. Cast is good. Pleasant.
Yeah, pleasant and fun. Like I was like bopping around watching it.
Yeah, the music is pretty impressive overall. I was surprised this time at how many of the other songs I liked and how like well written they are. Like there's one that the sort of lounge singer guy sings later on in the movie called Mr. Downtown. I listened to that like 5 times. I loved it. It's like that's a great song. So yeah, the music is really good. So this movie is the story of some kids who get swept up in being rock stars in the 60s. We open with a fun little bouncy credit scene where we see Guy, who is the drummer. He's working for his dad at the appliance store, and just being a young man.
Yeah, he's like pretty into his job. He's taking it pretty seriously at first.
What's kind of funny is the dad is always like sort of frustrated with him. Like he's just like, oh, this damn teenager and his rock and roll. But he seems like the most like responsible, put together kid you could ask for. Like they're all the boys are like that. There's no one's doing drugs in this group. Like they're all very wholesome.
Yeah, I agree. It's a bit. It's just Guy's dad is just such a dad. Like it doesn't even make sense why he's so pissed off at his kid all the time and irritated with him.
Yeah, I that is one of the things the movie does well is showing him kind of being won over by the end. Like you compare the early scenes of him being like, oh, damn teenagers. And then like by the end when they're on TV and the family's just like losing it, like you sort of see like he just can't resist and he's proud.
Yeah, I love that scene after they see them on the television. But he's also just such a dad. Like, I was wondering where this guy was from, and it's Holmes Osborne. It's Donnie Darko's dad.
Right.
Yeah, so he's just a good dad guy. But he's just like generally cranky and curmudgeonly. Like I love the scene where he's like reading the newspaper. Let's see what these guys have. Oh, barbecues, shoe polish, nobody can just shine their own shoes anymore. I don't want to live in a world where you have to stay open on Sundays. Like he's incredibly, he's old school. He's reminds me of my papa quite a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Some of that rang a bell with me. I think this time, seeing it as a kid or, being younger and the part where he's complaining about stores being open on Sundays, I'm like, come on, man, awesome for stores to be open. Where it is now, I'm like, yeah, you know what? We should close all the stores once a week arbitrarily. Just give people a day off. So the band already exists, and they're supposed to play the talent show, but they fuck things up because the drummer, Giovanni Ribisi, is playing
Chad
leapfrog, a very not Chad move to fall off a thing and break his arm. And so they got a rope guy in to do it. And it all goes from there.
I love that scene. I love that scene when they go, okay, I'm going to just start this off. On my end, this is going to be like a total Steve Zahn appreciation episode because I think he's the best thing about this movie. I think he's the best thing about most things he does. I love when he goes and talks to him about it. Well, before that, they kind of see him at the diner, and they're kind of ribbing him a little bit. And he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna play at the talent show. It's gonna be hilarious." And he comes to ask him if he'll play, and he's like, "The asshole just broke his arm," and they're just laughing hysterically. Like everything's such a joke. I actually would love to see the script and what was written in there versus like if Steve Zahn did any improvising, because everything seems improvised.
Yeah.
But that just could be his delivery. I don't know.
Yeah. Like I think this is like the most Steve Zahn role, or like it's the perfect role for him, just to kind of be like, the funny guy who's always cracking a joke in every situation. He doesn't take things too seriously. The scene where I was wondering if it was improvised was where he's playing Go Fish with like two guys in suits. It's during the big montage when they're on tour. And like whatever, I can't remember what the dialogue was, but like that definitely felt like they probably set up a camera there and let him go for, 10 minutes and got some nuggets out of that.
Play a lot of cards.
Yeah.
That scene.
Okay, so Guy says he'll do the talent show, but only if they buy a $15 clock radio, which I did some math. That's $125 in today's money.
What's an Alexa these days?
I guess, but these are teenagers. They don't have... Maybe they do have that kind of money. I don't know.
I feel like maybe Jimmy's parents have that kind of money. Or maybe Jimmy's parents are really poor and that's why he's got such a chip on his shoulder.
That's why he's a grumpy jerk.
Yeah.
So he goes and jams with them, and then we kind of start to see like the band and their dynamic. And so we've got Jimmy, who is the songwriter, the fucking moody visionary frontman, and his girlfriend Faye, who is like totally adoring of him and supportive of him. And he's just like, as the movie goes on and on, you just kind of see him just not give a shit about her.
I feel like when I first watched this, and I think I've seen the extended version more than this version, because I remember scenes between them that were not in this. I remember his progression into like full douche mode, like to be a bit more gradual. Here, he kind of starts off like right from the jump. I'm kind of like, he doesn't even seem to like give a shit if she is there or not until like she's celebrating something with him. But otherwise, he really doesn't even pay her much attention.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part that even looking at it from the beginning makes him seem like a huge asshole. I guess like it helps, there's, if the story goes in a different direction, then maybe those early scenes don't look so bad. Like it's just like whatever, they're just not playing up the romance angle between them. But I think kind of knowing where the story is going sort of makes all of that like, well, that is actually what a lot of those relationships look like when you have one partner who's like really invested and another who's just completely disinterested. As well as like, I think the movie does, I mean, they really kind of telegraph Guy and Faye, and like, I think those two actors have good chemistry, and the story just kind of gives them, they just kind of get closer and closer together.
I don't see it as much as I would have liked to, or that I think the extended version explores it. Because it's like he's being sweet to her, but there's not really... I know this is jumping to the very last scene, but like, I almost felt like it wasn't developed enough to justify those last scenes with the two of them, like as if this is the final wrap up of the movie, is this love story between them. I think that for me, this movie is like a love story between Guy and music more than anything.
Guy and
then
Del.
It ends. Yeah. And then it ends with this romantic moment between him and Faye. And I almost would have liked it better if they would have just been really supportive and sweet, loving friends. But they kind of had to go to that romantic thing. I get it. It wasn't the worst, but in terms of what we saw and how we got there, I don't think there was enough for me to really like be invested in that part of the story.
I'm just going to call you out here. This is just because you don't like Tom Everett Scott as much as you rightfully should.
I don't know what it is. Okay. I really hated him. I hated him when I was younger. I was like, this fucking dork. I can't stand him. I don't know why. And coming into this, I was like, you know what? I was an angry young woman. Maybe I'm less angry now, and he's going to be great. I really tried to get on board. I don't have as much like rage like shooting through me as I used to. But I don't know. You know, sometimes
rage
you're just like, this
shooting
guy...
for Tom Everett Scott? Like, I feel that way about Jesse Eisenberg, but I feel like that's a little bit more deserved.
I don't know why I feel this way about him. I don't know what it is. You know, sometimes just someone and you're like, this fucking guy. I just cannot get behind him. There's no reason I should have anything but love for Tom Everett Scott. He irritates the shit out of me. I don't find him charming. I can't get behind him. I don't know. I don't hate him. Look, I'm fairly neutral, but like leaning towards that. I could go without.
I find this fascinating. Like, you are, of course, objectively allowed to feel whatever feelings you have. But I'm just like, I just look at Tom Everett Scott and I'm just like, I'm like, why is this guy, where is he? Where did this guy go? I feel like he did like a couple movies, then disappeared. I don't know, maybe that was his choice, but like, he just kind of comes across as like, I don't know, likable, nice protagonist guy, you know? Like he's
fine. I don't know what it is. There are moments in this where I feel a little irritated with him, like all the fucking I am Spartacus moments.
Stuff. It's a bit cringe.
Yeah, like exactly. I don't know where this comes from. Is this something on the cutting room floor that provides more context into like why this guy is so obsessed or why he's using this line?
I think that to me read as young people with an in-joke phrase that they say to each other. Like, I remember when I was a teenager, like in high school, like people had stupid phrases you'd say all the time as like a joke. So like I interpreted that as something like that. It's his bit, you know, he just likes to say I am Spartacus because he's a little brainy. He's a little brainier than everyone else. He knows like history a little bit. Which this is something I understand why you would hate.
Oh, is someone smart?
No, people with like, maybe this is just me and what I hate, but like people who are really proud that they know like trivia and like to throw brainy science facts into every conversation. Mm-hmm. It's like,
oh, you don't know?
Neil deGrasse Tyson. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. He's got a little bit of Neil deGrasse Tyson in him. Yeah,
that guy's a little up his own ass a little bit too. I shouldn't say too. I don't think Tom Everett Scott is up his own ass. Guy, there's no reason I should dislike him.
It's back.
I just don't love him. And I love Liv Tyler. I wanted to be Winona Ryder. I wanted to be like Liv Tyler when I was younger. I was like, she's a dream. She's so lovely. She's so sweet and wholesome in this movie. And I don't know. I don't know. I mean, whatever. I'm sure Guy will treat Faye really well. But I'm just not going to be... You know what? If Faye and Guy were my neighbors, I'd be like, oh, Faye's so great. When we run into each other at the mailbox, it's so lovely to catch up. But like, if we had to go over... We, meaning me and my, I don't know, future
Steve
partner... Zahn. If me and Steve Zahn and I had to go to a fucking barbecue, I'd be like, you know what? If Guy corners me, if you see me and Guy, it's just me and Guy, you got to get me out of that situation. Like, we're not staying long. That's how I feel.
And Guy is going home to Liv Tyler and he's just like, I think she hates me. I don't know why. And she's like, I don't know. Like, did you say something? I don't know. I made the Spartacus joke. She really got mad at that.
I think I think Faye would be like, of course she loves you. Everyone loves you. You're the best. You're the most wonderful. She doesn't have a lot to work with in this movie, but she does a great job.
So I think I kind of get where you're coming from with the romance story, in that I don't think, well, I don't know. I didn't really have a problem with it. I was fine with it. Like, I think they do a good enough job. They don't really like make it like their relationship is romantic until like the very end, but I think they do have good chemistry, the two performers, as like people who are really good friends, and they're going on this adventure together, and they like each other. Like, they're clearly like friends, you know? And I think, you know, at the end, she's like, fuck this Jimmy guy. And then, oh, hey, there's this guy that like clearly it was there the whole time. Like, I think that's the story, which is, that's a happy ending. People like that. Test audiences eat it up.
Yeah.
Everything in this movie is dialed up to happy. Like, there's not a lot of actual negativity in places where there really could be, you know, like you could make this story about, you know, like they start doing heroin and, you know, like they lose all their money, and, you know, the record exec is like super sleazy. Like, even the record company guy is like, it's Tom Hanks. Like, how bad can he be?
Yeah. Even what's his face? Ethan Embry? Is that his name? Yeah. Who goes off to serve. He's fine. He just wins some medals and he comes home like he isn't killed in the line of duty or anything like that, which is something I mean, this is very much got that lovable Tom Hanks vibe. I think maybe why I liked Jimmy when I was younger was because he was the only negative thing, and I related more to Jimmy when I was younger. Because
you were brooding, and he also hates Tom Everett Scott.
Maybe. I also kind of get I kind of get where he's coming from. I don't think he is approaching the situation or expressing himself in appropriate grown-up ways. But I also kind of get where he's coming from.
Yeah, you know, like that. I guess it is kind of funny that they do paint Jimmy pretty clearly as a villain by the end of the movie. You know, like you have everybody else, you know, everybody's on this ride and having a good time, but Jimmy's like, I want to record again. I want to go in the studio and record songs, and he wants to like record his own songs, which like is a totally rational thing for like an artist or musician to do, but it's pretty clearly like the way they show that is like just kind of him being a little whiny, I guess. And, you know, at the end, he storms off and quits. Yeah.
That moment is so brutal when he's singing that little song, like, I quit, and he's smiling. Oh, it's like sinister. He hated it.
Apparently, he came up with that during the audition, and that helped him get the part. The little song there. So, yeah, so the band plays the talent show. It goes really well because they play the song faster. Already, Jimmy's shit is getting fucked up. His artistic vision.
Kind of a dick move, though. Like, let's be honest, on Guy's part. Would you do that? Would you, if you were like going live on, like, look, I'm not in a band, but if I go on stage and we've rehearsed, like, in a play, and we've rehearsed something fucking for 3 months, and we get up there and someone just completely goes off script, that's not cool. And the audience is often like, wow, that's the fucking best performance. And you're like, this fucking asshole mucked it up for everyone else. You know, kind of a dick move.
You are right in that if you were in a band and like someone just completely like, oh, I just brought the tempo up 20 beats per minute. Like that's a very big editorial decision to be made by one person who just joined at a very inopportune time. However, at the same time, the way this movie works is like that song was written to be played at that tempo for the purpose of this movie. So when you're watching the movie and you hear the song played all slow, you're like, that sounds terrible. And then you hear it played fast and you're like, well, of course, that's what you're supposed to do. So in the context of the movie, he's a renegade who made the right decision and launched their careers. So he was right.
You can't hold those jazz guys down. They just got to jazz.
So actually, I want to point something out about the music and the band in this movie. This movie has possibly the best fake instrument playing I've ever seen. because that's a thing that movies and whatever other media do often very poorly. And sometimes I'm just amazed at how little effort they put into it. Like you could, so they spent 8 weeks like learning instruments and practicing the songs together. And by the end, when they would be like playing the song, like the crew thought it was the band actually playing it. Like people thought they were doing it, even though they were just doing the, you know, playing over top. And you can tell because like they'll show, like I can watch a bass player play a song and like tell for the most part, you know, if they're actually playing the thing. And in that scene where they're like at the carnival playing it and they're like all kind of looking at each other as they figure out like, whoa, we're playing the song faster. I was like, wow, that is fucking spot on fake instrument playing.
I'm going to credit Tom Hanks, director, for that, because you know what? Like I was saying, this doesn't have a bunch of flashy shots. It's not like, I think there are like filmmakers and I think there are directors. Do you know what I mean? Like, again, I'm no like big screen actress, but like even just working locally on independent things, you have so many people who get into filmmaking because they want to frame a shot and they want to make things look cool and interesting. And those often have those really beautiful looking things, but then they'll just like hire some kind of model or something and they won't direct the actors and they won't put that time in because they don't have that experience. But obviously Tom Hanks as an actor turned director, I think that's why this movie feels so natural and these performances are so good and feel so real. Like they all really feel like real human beings for me. And I really, really appreciate that. And so like possibly a filmmaker might go into this and be like, okay, so here's how we're going to shoot this. This is almost like an action scene. Like we're shooting the live music, whatever. Whereas Tom Hanks was clearly like, okay, we're going to take 8 weeks and you guys are going to learn how to actually play these characters that you're portraying and we're not going to get lazy about it.
Yeah, that's a really good investment to make. I mean, I guess it depends on the movie. Like if it's a movie where you have one scene where someone plays a guitar for 5 seconds, like, you know, whatever. But a movie at the scale that is like, this is a movie about, it's a band movie, it's a musician movie, you know, like we're going to spend a lot of time looking at these people playing stuff. That is definitely a worthwhile investment to make that I could see a lot of people not bothering with, and it pays off.
But also, I just have to say that a lot of the time, those people in the movies who are playing the guitar for 5 minutes, that's their whole job is as an actor. It's not like these people at this level are not like working 2 jobs during the day and then doing this on the weekends. This is their job. This is their whole life sometimes. You can't take a little bit of time to like go to a fucking guy who plays guitar and be like, hey, can you just like help me?
Tell me like roughly how I can,
I would do that if I was on some like amateur community theater production. So it really does irritate me when like professional actors who are getting paid millions of dollars don't take the time to really invest in that. So kudos to these actors as well.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess it depends how much time you have to get ready for what you're doing. If you ever have to hold a guitar, though, for God's sake, like learn 1 or 2 chord shapes and roughly approximate them. Because like I can look at a picture of someone holding a guitar and depending on, like I can't say 100% of the time I can tell if they're a guitar player or not, but if they're doing certain things, it becomes immediately obvious that they like don't know. It's like watching someone smoke who doesn't actually smoke and they're just like, you're like, what are you doing?
Somebody did that to me when I had one of my 2 cigarettes that I've smoked in my entire life. And it was the second time. And they were like, that's not how you hold a smoke. I was like, oh, I don't fucking know. Like, this is my second smoke.
You get peer pressured out of smoking for being bad at it. Yeah. Like, you're not cool enough to smoke.
Aww.
So while the band is at the talent show, I really like the stage guy who's like introducing people and his banter with the hecklers, and he just like loses his shit and starts screaming at them. I'll kick your ass. Great line delivery there.
I feel like we're missing a scene where he's like doing coke backstage or something.
He just gets all aggro and goes to the local sock hops. Yeah, Giovanni Ribisi's in the crowd and he's just like, oh man, I'm fucked.
There's a one moment where like someone just doesn't even see him standing there and runs right into him and hurts his arm.
Yeah. So that is like, I think this movie has lots of little like lines and details that just kind of keep it kind of funny and entertaining throughout. And I think like that's a good example, as well as the guy yelling like 2 seconds before. So Guy has a girlfriend played by Charlize Theron, which is like a very brief little subplot, but I forgot she was in this. She's a big name.
Me too.
Big name now.
I know. Yeah, this must have been one of her earlier things. I totally forgot as well. I felt kind of bad for this character at first because she clearly just like wants a guy who's going to just like be super in love with her. And he's just like, did you hear us? We were awesome. And she's like, anyway, gonna go fall in love with my dentist now.
Yeah, she looks like Barbie. That dentist looks like Ken. Like they're cartoon characters. Wait, so was your read on her that like, because the way I thought she was written was clearly like Guy is like, it's an exciting thing that's happening. And he's like, you know, hey, we got a show. We got to blah, blah, blah. And she just like perpetually just doesn't care. Like she is just deeply disinterested in any of that shit that's happening and kind of a little passive aggressive about it. Because she's like, oh, yeah, you got a gig at the airport.
I feel a little bit confused about her character because she seems to value superficial things. But like her boyfriend is getting these cool opportunities and everyone in town is like, wow, he's the best. But she's still like, snore, who cares? So she was kind of a weird character for me.
I think she was basically written so that Guy, like, it's kind of maybe to mirror the relationship between Faye and Jimmy. Where, well, like, with Guy and Charlize Theron, Tina, like, he's having success and he's, you know, as far as I'm concerned, a likable, like, he's, you know, a pretty model boyfriend you could hope for.
He was flirting with that little fangirl in that scene, so model boyfriend, perhaps not, but he's fine.
He was being polite, you know.
He was stroking his ego.
Okay.
There.
I think we, again, different lenses through which we watch this movie. But yeah, like basically she's like, you know, whatever, disinterested, and, you know, he's doing his thing. And then you've got Faye and Jimmy, and Faye like is very interested in the band and the music and like kind of is like a crew member in their group. And Jimmy just kind of doesn't seem to give a shit about her, you know, like he's just sort of like, whatever, takes her for granted. So I think that's why Tina exists, is to kind of just give you a bit of a mirror there. But unless that is in the 40 additional minutes in that extended edition, which I never want to watch, you know, you don't get too much of her.
Yeah.
I did like the line about like, I got to go to the dentist all day at the dentist.
She's good. I really like Charlize Theron. She's funny in this. At least she's kind of a pointless character, I think, but she does her job and she does it well. Yeah,
and she's like jealous of Faye the minute they meet.
Yeah, she's very suspicious of her.
Yeah, so like that's the movie again kind of telegraphing the romance. Like they're just kind of like, look, this is where this is going. So they get gigs playing pizza places, and they're like, yeah, why don't we record an album? And they go to do that. And then, hey, it's Chris Isaak, which is like, I think the first of the, hey, it's so-and-so in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to say also, when they're at the pizza place, this isn't that big of a deal, but I thought it was a great detail that I had never noticed before. So the Wonders, one, as in the number one, Oneders. I love this running joke of like the Oneaters or the Onetters. There's a sign outside the pizza place that says on one of the signs it says 2, the numeric $2 cover, and then there's a big sign and it's written in letters TOO dollar cover. Like it says Wonders TOO $2 cover, which I thought was a funny detail on that sign that somebody clearly was proud of, and we're like, we need a shot of this.
Yeah. That's good. Good attention to detail.
Anyway, yes, Chris Isaak is the best. And they go to make an album.
Yeah, I like the scene where they're recording the song in the church. A detail I liked was the producer Chris Isaak and Faye like doing the claps, which just sort of feels realistic to how that would have happened. Kind of made me nostalgic again for the 90s. Like this movie for me is nostalgic because of when it came out and how old I was at that time. But it also made me remember the Chris Isaak show in the like mid to late 90s. Did you ever watch that?
I never watched it.
I remember it being not that bad. I haven't seen it in 15 or 20 years, however long it's been. Probably 20 years. It's like he's Chris Isaak and it's his band, and it is his actual band in the show with like one or two people are replaced with actors, and just kind of like a sort of adult sitcom. It's not a drama. It's very light. It's kind of makes me think of this movie in a certain way. That's what the 90s was.
Yeah, I love Chris Isaak. I should just check that out one day.
So they get a manager. I can't remember the manager's name. He's in this movie for about like 5 minutes. He gets some local gigs.
That's super sketchy at first. He's like, come into my camper.
Yeah, that's another part of like, so where this movie could have been like a very serious, like, movie is just like this guy's a dirtbag and he scams them and blah, blah, blah. But nobody is actually bad in this movie. So he's just like, I'll get your song on the radio. And he does. And everyone goes crazy. And that's definitely a very fun part in this movie.
I love that scene so much. That's probably one of the most memorable scenes for me. Like Faye listening to her little portable radio and licking stamps, and she hears the song and she starts freaking out and running down the street. It's just such a joyful, like I felt it when I was watching it. It felt incredibly sincere, and I just the sort of culmination of everyone like ending up at the appliance store and turning on all the radios in the store and dancing around. It's so joyful, so much fun.
It really evokes the feeling of like if you've ever worked on something with a bunch of people and finished it and it's like been successful, or I'm not much of a sports guy, but like you win the big game, you win the tournament, you win whatever, like you're kind of all just like, just like pumping your fists and you're like so happy in that moment. And you're just like, fuck yeah, we did it. That's kind of what that feeling evokes just by proxy. Yes.
And Lenny, again, when he goes up to, I guess it's Guy's sister. And he's kind of like, you can see that he's got all this energy and he doesn't know where to put it. And he turns around and kisses the cardboard cutout. I love that moment.
Yeah.
I hate the I am Spartacus moment at the end of this. To me, that kills this moment. It takes something away from this collective group excitement and just like puts the camera on Tom Everett Scott. Again, I'm not really sure what the Spartacus shit really is supposed to tell us about him, but other than me, maybe he's just a nerd.
He's a clever guy. That's it. Like I think
how was that clever?
I don't know. You had to be there.
Like it's a pop culture reference. I don't know.
Well, anyway. Actually, hold on. Let's look this up. When did the Spartacus movie come out? Because that you might actually be onto something with the pop culture reference there.
Like he's a new hip kid. He's not like stuffy like his dad. I don't know.
Spartacus film 1960. You know what? That probably is it. Because that's the famous line from the movie is I am Spartacus. Yeah. And they all get up.
I am Spartacus. I am Spartacus.
Well, okay. So he ruins the moment, but everyone soldiers on. And they meet Tom Hanks, who is the Playtone manager guy.
I love that name for that record company.
Playtone?
Also, Playtone.
He named the actual company he made afterwards Playtone for that reason.
Oh, so, really?
Good choice.
Yeah,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, he used that name. I think, I don't know if all the like what he produces with it, but that is Tom Hanks' company.
Nice.
Yeah, Tom Hanks is interesting in this. Like, again, he could be a bad guy. You maybe at the beginning you're like a little bit unsure of him, but by the end of the movie, like he's not sleazy. He's as sleazy as you can be in this movie. Oh, that's not true. No, he's not really like sleazy, but like, I don't know. He really is just like adult mentoring this band, you know, like that really is what it is by the end, is like Tom Hanks was just kind of dad and seeing them through this little period and sort of like knew what was going to happen and just, you know, try and keep them safe along the way.
The first scene where Camper Guy and Tom Hanks, they're kind of doing this handover of the management of the group. I always read that, and even this time I was like, wait, is this sketchy? I didn't think it was. Of him maybe getting something out of it, and that's why he's handing this group off. But he's really just like, no, I can't take you guys where Tom Hanks can take you guys. And he's so genuine and sincere. You know what? You're right. This is like a very wholesome movie, because there really is nobody that is that terrible. But besides Tom Everett Scott, but that moment always makes me nervous, because it seems like he's doing it to get something for himself, but he really isn't.
I think in reality, it probably is a bit of both. Like, I think in a situation like that, he does have the contract with the band to manage them. So I think, you know, like he could have some leverage, or there could be some kind of like finder's fee or whatever for you know, breaking that contract so he could sign with the other guy. But at the same time, like it does seem obvious, like what he's saying is genuine, where he's like, look, you know, like he's a camper guy, like I can get you around here. This is like several leagues above, like go do this, you know, like he just honestly wants what's best for them. I like his management of the band. Like he just kind of immediately is like, okay, you're wearing suits. He's got a little, you know, there's a little joke every time they're wearing a suit. You look great in that suit. Have I told you that? And then he's like, you wear sunglasses. That's your thing. You know, like you're the bad boy. I thought that was kind of fun, just watching the industry professional who knows what they're doing, like tightly execute on, like, you get on the stage, you play your song, you get the fuck off the stage. That's it, you know, like in and out. Yeah,
that was cool. I liked how that's the only time where I was ever like a little suspicious of him, when he was kind of getting the dirt on, like, you know, Jimmy and Faye, or like, what's the deal with Guy? And then you can see that he's like, okay, well, it's almost like he's a good guy, and he wants Jimmy and Faye to be okay. He's not pushing like Jimmy's the hot guy, lead singer, cool guy. He's like, oh, you know what? Okay, so now that I have all the information from you, I'm going to make Guy, cool guy shades. Like, that's my final plan for these guys.
Wait, do you think the decision to give him the sunglasses was based on his read of the situation?
Not completely, but I do think that it had something to do with it, because then he could...
Yeah, you don't want to make, like, if the girls are going to go gaga over someone, you don't want it to be the guy who's in the long-term relationship.
Yeah. And I also kind of felt like he was like, oh, girl, like, this guy's not going to be around for 2 more years.
Well, that's what I thought watching that scene, was like, not necessarily that he had an agenda he wanted to push. I mean, I guess, like, by nature of being the manager, like, that information is going to influence how he does things. So no, you know, no matter what. But it felt like a very subtle, like, he's just kind of almost telling you, the audience, and telling the band above their heads that, like, I know what's going on here, even if you guys don't, you know? Like, he's just like, how long have you two been together? What do you think about Guy? Piece it together. So that's just like the experience of, I don't know, wisdom, I guess, being lorded over everyone. Oh yeah, the bass player is joining the Marines. So the bass player's name in this movie is TB Player. He literally is named the bass player. Yeah. But the actor, like, made it Tobias to, like, give him something to work with, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's supposed to be a joke about bass players not getting respect, which is true. Bass players do not get enough respect.
Even as a non-musician, I can appreciate that.
We skipped over something, which is, hey, it's Kevin Pollak.
Hello, Pittsburgh.
That's where they had that really shitty gig.
Yeah. They didn't do like a tech run through of this? They didn't do a sound check?
I don't know. Maybe they didn't have time.
Who the fuck set this guy's drums up? Why is that cymbal falling over?
Nerves got the best of him.
This is just like loses control of his legs. He's just... Kicking things over.
We get a montage of the band on tour, which is fun to watch. Looks fun.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go on tour.
They climb up the Billboard charts.
Yeah, this is the peak of the fun part of the movie before things are about to start going south.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like this is where it's all beginning.
Fame destroys them.
Yeah. Okay, this movie has very little by way of visual effects, but there's one visual effect shot in this movie that is terrible. Did you notice it?
I didn't notice it.
So they're doing the tour, and it's like a montage of like just stuff happening, and then whatever song playing. I think it might have been one of their other ones. But it ends with a shot of like the band, like the camera is behind the band, and it pans, and the band is facing a crowd, and it's just like the most bullshit blue screen looking crap.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, so on the tour, we start to see like Jimmy is developing a relationship with Diane, I think is her name. She's like a veteran singer, and she's been doing the circuit for a while, and she's a little older. Tom Hanks even kind of digs at her a bit for like how long it's been since she's had a number one. So like, right. Yeah, so Jimmy's getting even like more distant from Faye, and like, I don't know, it's not really implied that like he's sleeping with her or anything, but just that like she's kind of like flirty with him and stuff like that, and he kind of doesn't register to him how maybe that might look to Faye.
Yeah, he's just like, check this out, this lady who's got... Okay, because I think in the extended version, he does actually cheat on her, maybe, or it's more implied, where in this one, it doesn't necessarily lead us down that path, but like she sits on his lap. It's almost like he's more fascinated by like, here's this artist who's been doing this a long time, and she's almost mentoring me. I think she wants to get on that, but maybe he's not 100%. He's like, sorry, I have music to write, lady.
I mean, he does allude to something where he says like, Diane warned me about this, and it's like, yeah, I think maybe his infatuation with her it might really just be about the music and the business and that kind of stuff, because that's what he's in love with. Yeah. They play some gig, and it kind of going along with the guy and Jimmy and Faye stuff is like they do a gig, and the crowd is just going crazy. So they got to like run outside, and she can't get to the limo, and Jimmy doesn't even notice because he's too busy being Jimmy. And then Guy sees it and saves her.
Okay. Here's something that I don't like about these sorts of things where they don't lay it out enough as a romantic thing. It's like, that's just him not being a piece of shit stuck up his own ass. And we're like, wow, oh my God, how romantic, he went back for her. But it's like any of them should have been like, oh shit, there's like 5 of us here, and someone who is constantly with us isn't with us in this moment. We should go and see where that person is. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I guess. But I think, Guy is the one who notices.
He's aware of her because her presence means something to him, blah, blah, blah. But it's just not enough for me.
Oh, yeah. I love the movie scene where they film the song on the movie set. There's so much good stuff going on there.
Yeah, I like that one, too.
So the director, who is bouncing around in his chair when the song is playing, that's Jonathan Demme.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think he produced this.
I think you're right.
Captain Geach?
Captain Geach and the Shrimp Shack Shooters.
I love when Steve Zonsker, when Lenny brings it up later in their radio interview, when they're like,
who are your influences?
And they're like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there was a radio. At some point, they do an interview where like the radio guy does a big spiel, and then he says like hi to the band, and they say hi, and then he just like cuts it off. Yeah. That dude had fantastic radio voice. I was really impressed with his little speech there. Yeah,
it sounded very douchey, like a real professional radio.
Yeah, in like
DJ.
The 60s. Yeah, so I love that beach scene because like, they're like Jimmy's feeling kind of I don't know, used, I guess, as a musician.
Yeah.
But I love how everyone else is just having fun with it. They're just like, fuck yeah, we're just doing this stupid movie thing. It's great. But then when they pause the scene and the music stops, and then like you get this scene where it's like this woman and her boyfriend and Goofball, and they're like, okay, Goofball, keep dancing, and he's just like waving his arms and doing the dance. I love that performance. Like, that whole little bit is so funny to me.
I love it. It emphasizes how stupid TB, is that his name? How stupid he is, because the music stops and he's like, what, the music stopped, like, what do I do? And
he's like holding a
guy's
saxophone.
like, yeah, just keep going. Yeah. I think Lenny was on sax, actually.
Oh, okay. Hey, it's Clint Howard.
Yeah, he just pops up everywhere.
He's got the best setup going. When your brother's like the most famous director, or one of the most famous directors ever, and he just like every 2 years is like, here you go, be in this movie. I wonder how much he gets paid for those scenes. Like, do you get?
I don't know. That's like what, like a couple of hours on set? Probably not that much.
Do you think like he takes even less because it's just like it's a cameo for Ron Howard, or is Ron Howard like? Is there like a patronage thing where he's like, oh yeah, we'll give you like $2 million for that cameo?
My God, I don't know, but I want to find out if that's the kind of situation they have going on. $2 million for a couple of hours on set.
But they just add it to the craft services budget and give it to him under the table. I'm making some bold accusations about how Ron Howard and Clint Howard do business. Jokes, don't sue me. Yeah, but they're really, they're starting to realize they're cogs in the machine at this point, and things are starting to boil over. They have a big old fight at the diner, and then Guy goes on his little jazz club bender.
I love this scene, or this series of scenes. He's just like, it's like when, I don't know if you've ever talked to like a toddler about something they're excited about, but that's exactly what this sounds like.
When he like goes to the guy's table and he's just like, my name is Guy, I play drums, I go to whatever Erie High School.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, very sweet.
And he's like drunkenly at the table, just like air drumming along to the song, having the time of his life.
I love Rita Wilson in this scene too. She's like, she's not that old when this movie was made. Well, she's not that old now, but she's almost playing like this kind of I've seen it all kind of server who's she definitely suggests at the end of that scene that she's like, okay, let's kick it, but he's just so drunk and just on Mars by this point.
Yeah, like she's very clearly trying to take him home with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that detail that she got him hired on the film, like really just kind of puts that scene in a new light. Because I didn't know that when I watched it, and I was just like, wow, this lady she's really into Tom Everett Scott. And then you find out that she really into Tom Everett Scott. Oh yeah, at some point, Guy says he was stationed in Germany. I think it's during the scene. Was he in the military? How old is this guy?
Yeah, I don't know. He was 26 when they filmed this. Because I was like, he looks like a baby. And I think that they are supposed to be like in their early 20s, that were mid 20s, maybe.
Yeah, I guess maybe he went in and out.
I don't know.
This
18?
This was pre-Vietnam, so that might not have been that. Actually, that would have been a good time to be in the military, I think, because you would have missed the Korean War and also missed the Vietnam War, so you could go be in the military for a few years and then come back and be a beatnik drummer.
Yeah, the dream.
Bass player guy is at Disneyland with the Marines. That's a weird little montage. Well, when that whole thing starts, like you feel kind of bad at first because like. He signs up for the Marines and he's gonna be leaving the band. I felt bad for him at first because it's like, oh man, you're about to get all famous and stuff. But clearly that didn't matter anyway, or he would have fallen apart anyway. But then like he sees some Marines in a diner, and then he's like, hey guys, I'm gonna join the Marines, and they kind of like they make him do push-ups, and you're like, oh man, they're like bullying him, which they are. But then like I guess they just kind of like went on and had adventures together, and that makes it all okay.
He's interesting because he's clearly very invested in this, right? The scene where
it's like that scene in the Deer Hunter.
Yeah, that thing you do is quite a bit like the Deer Hunter when you really break it down. But yeah, that scene where they hear their song on the radio and he's at like a military, I don't know, supply store. I don't know what the fuck it is. And he's like getting fitted for like a jacket or something, or he's bought a jacket when Liv Tyler runs by.
Yeah, I don't know if he
I
had
didn't feel bad for him. Sorry, I didn't feel bad for him. I felt like this is what he really wanted to do. And like playing bass was like something fun to do with his friends. But maybe he wouldn't have enlisted if he knew that they were about to hit it big time. But I felt like this was really his. I mean, he was just like a dog and a squirrel when he saw those guys in the diner.
Yeah, he seems pretty fine with it by the end. Again, nothing. There's no stakes in this movie, so everything just kind of works out perfectly every way.
Exactly.
Hey, it's Bryan Cranston for like 5 seconds.
I know.
Playing an astronaut.
Such a short little blip of Bryan Cranston.
So Bryan Cranston is in From the Earth to the Moon, which is a Tom Hanks mostly produced, although he did direct one episode. And it's like, I think it came out after Apollo 13. I think. Yeah, here's what Tom Hanks does. Something does really well, and then he knows how to do the next iteration of it. So like Band of Brothers after Saving Private Ryan. And he directed one of those too. Yeah, so Bryan Cranston plays Buzz Aldrin, which is interesting because he looks exactly the same, I think. I think he has the same haircut. This is their big TV performance. I like the way this is shown. Like they kind of give you like the full song one more time, and this is sort of like the bittersweet end of everything. So you got the family at home losing it.
So cute.
Yeah.
I love the dad afterwards when he's like playing like wooden spoons.
Yeah, he's just like jumping around,
him
excited
on his wife's butt. Yeah,
yeah. I like the part where they show it from the producer's booth, and they're like showing like, okay, we're gonna move this camera in, and yeah, and then I like they're like, Leo, there's a good looking kid. Wolfman, too scary, go. And then pan away. Shades, add a baby. Like it really is just like them as the most like product, I guess, or sort of like they even say like we're going to show this band to the world and we want to do it right. And I think it's almost like a bit of a love letter to like the craft of airing a public performance of a band in the style that television worked at that day. It's kind of their Beatles Sullivan Show moment.
Yeah, it's interesting from that television perspective. And then like you said, like we see them recording their album, and people don't record like that anymore unless they're like some genius, like I don't fucking know, someone like Jack White would be like, I want it to be all live, all most people would never take that gamble because it's not worth the risk. So it was cool watching how things used to be done versus how, I don't know that TV production necessarily looks a lot different right now on live events. But this was kind of the beginning of it all. So I think, it's super cool to kind of get that behind the scenes. And I also love how Chad, Giovanni Ribisi, is like somehow become like adopted into the family. He's like watching with the Pattersons. Is that their last name? The Pattersons? Guy's family. He's just, I thought he was going to be like sore about not being able to be on TV, but he's like, yeah, cool. This is great. And he's playing up his little like TV dinner to the television with the rest of the family.
I think Chad probably knows that he wasn't a very good drummer. Like we don't see him play drums in this movie, so we don't know. But like when they're talking about him after he's hurt himself, they're just like, he thinks every song is Wipeout. Like you get the impression that like this is their attitude at the beginning. Like Steve Zahn sort of like, it's going to be hilarious. Like they're not they're a bit shitty and they know it. But Guy like elevates them by being a proper drummer. Yeah, I like we only see him for like 2 scenes, but that Wolfman bass player guy, it's just so funny that he's like clearly like 10 years older than him and is like just a pro session musician.
Yeah.
The crowd is like kids losing their mind, except there's like 4 or 5 adults that are like clearly either like they're annoyed or just confused, which I thought that was a good detail to stick some of those in. And then Jimmy finds out he's engaged and gets super pissed off and they have a big fight.
Yeah, that's super weird. Who who told them that he was engaged? Tom Hanks?
So he says, Jimmy asks, like, who did this? And then Tom Hanks says, the same person who thought you had class. Which I presume means Tom Hanks. Yeah. But that is, it's kind of a weird choice. Like, Jimmy got mad, and he's right to get mad, especially if he hadn't actually proposed, because, like, that came from somewhere. But he's the bad guy because we need him to be, so, like, whatever. Tom Hanks is right. He just put that on the air. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that scene's so heartbreaking. Like, okay. His fight with Faye, he puts it all on her. It's so gross. He's so shitty to her here. And she's, like, just one of those too pure for this world kind of characters. Like, she's so sweet. And she's just like, hey, yo, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. Anyway.
Weird she broke into that.
And then she gives her heartbreaking speech. And I think it's a well-written speech. There are some, like, lines in that are super heartbreaking. And I think she delivers it so well. But it feels so out of place. Like, it feels like it doesn't belong in this movie. Like, it gets really, really sad for a while. And up until this point, like, this is, I don't know, like, it's strange to me when these decisions are made. I don't know if it's a directing thing, a writing thing, an editing thing. But all of a sudden, this relationship and Faye and how she feels and what this relationship has been is given so much weight. Like, so much weight. Like, this is really the catalyst for, you know, what happens next, and that the band breaks up. And this is really what sets that all off. It just seemed out of place. It's got this strange music playing that doesn't fit with the rest of the film. Like, if you're going to film, or if you're going to fill your movie, yeah, if you're going to fill a movie with really great poppy songs, and then you have, like, some kind of okay score underneath this really dramatic, heartbreaking moment, it just, I don't know. I felt very conflicted about this scene. I don't know. It felt out of place.
Interesting. I didn't feel that way. It felt appropriate to me. Like, I think, you know, the movie is just like, it is alluding to it so often throughout. I mean, you know, benefit of hindsight, you also know where it's going. But right. it felt kind of like they don't really, I think I appreciate the fact that they don't really lean too hard into the relationship stuff early in the movie. Like, they don't make it this, like, because you could drag this out for 2 hours and be like, oh God, it's the love triangle. Yeah. They just kind of you know, hint at it a few times, but it's just sort of like there in the background. And I think I like that better. And then by the end of the movie, it's just like, this is the end. Like, everything's falling apart. I mean, it's kind of the catalyst. I guess it is sort of in the narrative sense of, like, you know, once that is, Jimmy's just fucking lost it at that point. He's furious. And then like, but clearly, you know, artistically, he just doesn't want to do that project anymore. I don't know. I like it. It feels more natural to me, I think, than it does to you. Yeah. Maybe I just hate Jimmy and I'm just like, man, fuck that guy.
I mean, he's awful. I hate him so much in this scene. He's so horrible to her and to everyone, really.
But he's right about everything at the same time.
He is. He's just going about it in a real douchey way, I think.
I think
his feelings are valid.
I think the way he approaches the music industry stuff is, I don't know, maybe we're supposed to read it as naive or, like, egotistical, but he's, you know, like, when they're in the camper van and he's like, I'm very nervous about signing stuff regarding music. And it's like, you fucking should be. Like, that's a very rational thing to feel. And whereas Steve Zahn's like, this guy wants to get us on the radio, sign it now. Like, he doesn't give a shit. And, like, you know, artistic integrity, blah, blah, blah. Like, he does, like, I think those are things, well, I guess this is also, like, a 90s movie. And I remember a lot of music discourse from the 90s being about, like, selling out. That phrase that we all used, you didn't want to be a sellout. Right. And maybe that's kind of like this scene or this dialogue throughout the movie is just very reminiscent of that kind of stuff about, like, Nirvana sold out or whatever band.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is. And I mean, I think that that is a constant theme. Well, you would know better than I would of just like bands, their priorities are in different places or what they want to do and how they envision their work going and how they want to go about getting it out there to their fans. It sounds kind of rough.
Well, the good thing is you can't sell out now because music doesn't make money for anybody except for Spotify. Maybe I'll bleep that so they don't remove us from the app. Yeah, music is a rough gig. Yeah, at least in the 90s, you could theoretically make some money. Well, Napster ruined it for everyone.
Look, I was thinking about Gen Z today. I'm like obsessed right now about this generation and how, even with music, now anybody can put music out there anywhere. Again, they're not going to be making money like maybe these big touring bands and stuff in the 90s. But look, Gen Zers like to shit on millennials. We kind of like were told it was going to be a certain way. And we all kind of followed that path. And then once we kind of hit college and got out of college, it was like, actually, the world looks completely different than how it was supposed to look. And you're not prepared for any of this. And we were all like, what the fuck? And so, yeah, I mean, this was a different time where I do think Jimmy's like, I do think he's naive. He's a bit, I think he thinks I'm an artist. If I'm a good artist, I'm going to be able to, that will read to people. I take my art very seriously, but he also takes himself so seriously. Guess that's the difference between him and Guy. Guy takes his work seriously, but he doesn't take himself seriously. And like, look, talk to any artist and they'll always be like, that's what you got to do. Don't take yourself too seriously, because the business side of it is a nightmare. It's such a bummer. It can really just crush you and weigh on you. So I feel like Jimmy's just not able to find anything that lifts that. And poor Faye is just like trying to relieve that weight off his shoulders this whole time. You can see she's just so desperate to like support this man. And he's just like, meh.
He tested in high school at genius levels.
Fuck. That's such a heartbreaking scene. I'm just like, oh God, girl, get out of there.
Yeah, I think Jimmy, like his approach to music and stuff like that is naive in that, he's a young man. This is his first experience with the music industry. That part where he goes and talks to the record exec guy. He's just like, hey, I wrote some songs. Let's get together and hear them. And then the guy just reams him out for it. That's probably the most like negative part of the movie. But like that stuff, like you kind of get where he's coming from. But when it comes to like people and relationships, he just seems like an asshole. And in reality, I would not be surprised if that guy was just that kind of asshole forever. Despite maybe the fact that like in the end credits, you find out that, well, he had another band, the Herdman, that had some successful records, and then he became a producer. So like he probably does mature in the sense of like the music industry, and I'm sure he makes compromises, you could say, I guess, on like he deals with it as it actually is versus the stubbornness of a young man who knows nothing. But who knows how many fucking Fays he's left behind him talking about how smart he is and artistic.
Those rock guys, am I right?
Oh yeah, Guy gives Lenny $200. That's $1,000 in today's money. What the fuck?
He said that's nothing, baby.
Says that's chump change.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
And also,
that.
Is Lenny just like I guess so. We find out he owns a casino at the end of the movie. Well, like, does he have a gambling problem? Is this what this is implying here? I was like, oh shit. Don't give him that money. I don't think
Somebody
he has a
gambling problem yet. It's his first time in Vegas. I think he's just like, Lenny is the fun having party guy, so like he's like, I'm gonna go to Vegas, like I want to fucking spend a bunch of money.
Where's Lenny's money? Where's he spent all his money? Presumably they're all splitting the proceeds or the revenue that's coming in from these gigs.
Yeah, Lenny just doesn't seem responsible, generally speaking. So
I love Lenny. Anyway.
Yeah, so they get in the studio the next day and they're like, you're going to record these songs from the catalog. And Jimmy's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And he sings his "Fuck You, I'm Out" song. And then, I really like Tom Hanks here just because, like, I think it's the scene before where Jimmy storms off or after breaking up with Faye. Tom Hanks just goes to a guy and he's like, your band's falling apart, guy. Like, he just kind of says it in this, like, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, it's a very common tale. So he's kind of like, Tom Hanks just sort of like knew this was going to happen. And that's just where it was all headed.
Yeah. I feel bad. I do feel bad for Guy here. I feel like Guy is being punished for being the good kid in class. How's
he being punished?
Well, even just like, what are you going to do about it? Guy's got to sort of carry this now, you know? He kind of made this all happen for them, and now he's kind of left out in the dark. Not really, because his, what's his name? Dell Paxton comes and saves the day on the piano, but...
Yeah, I think, again, this movie is a happy ending movie. Everything works out. Mm-hmm. So, it's a sad moment because, like, he says, this is my first time in a studio. Like, that's a really exciting thing to be. You're in a professional recording studio. And the minute you start, it's just over, and the whole thing is over. The band is done at that point, like, there's kind of no coming back from that. So it's sad. But then he does his little jam, and the script says, we want a happy ending. So Dell shows up, and they jam out together and record it. And I can't remember if, like, the post-credits said anything about him being a successful musician, but, like, that was my interpretation, is like, okay, clearly he's got connections now. He probably has a career as a drummer, so it is going to, works out great for him.
He teaches jazz composition at a school that him and Faye own.
Right. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So he's
a jazz guy.
He does good. He goes on to be J.K. Simmons in Whiplash.
Fuck. Don't even talk to me. Don't mention that movie to me.
And then he goes and chases after Faye in the restaurant. They have a, like, heart-to-heart. And then they're like, we're going to be friends. Yay. And then she leaves. And then the bellhop is like, what? He's like this bellhop character who just shows up and, like, knows everything about the relationship. Like, I don't know, Tom Hanks must have debriefed him and been like, look, you're going to...
He pops in a few times before this.
Yeah, he's in a couple scenes. But he's the one, he's like, you need to go talk to her.
Yeah, he's someone's guardian angel.
Yeah. And then they make out at the end of the kiss.
They kiss for way too long. This kiss is too long. And again, this music they put over this kiss, what the fuck? It sounds like it's a soap opera. Again,
I don't remember the music here at all.
Oh, it was so distracting for me. It was awful. They give us a great movie full of great music, and then they kind of smack us with this too long kiss. And it's just so cheesy.
Like the whole thing, or like the dialogue?
They don't even talk. They barely talk because they're just smooching under this horrible music. And then, I know you pointed out in your notes as well, the fuck does this bellhop know? He, like, turns to the camera and he's like, that's all, folks.
That is such a bizarre choice. I was like, I kind of, like, leaned back in my seat and was like, what?
I hate it. You know what it reminded me a bit of? This is going to be a little bit of a deep cut for people. You've watched 30 Rock?
Yes.
You know the leap year episode where Jim Carrey played the leap year guy, and at the end he, like, turns to the camera and he's like, well, folks, blah, blah, blah. And then he, like, there's, like, this mythology of this leap year. I can't remember what his character's name is. And he kind of all of a sudden goes, and he, like, has gills and, like, sharp teeth. And it freaked me the fuck out when I first watched it. I was watching it in bed. It was late at night. And it was one of those moments where I was like, am I the only one who saw that? Or is that part of the show? And like, that's what this felt like. Like, I felt very uncomfortable. I was like, what does this guy know? What is he trying to tell me?
Like, is this in the movie, or has something I've taken just kicked in and now, like, I'm imagining things?
I hated it. What? Yeah, like you said, it's a weird choice.
What if he turned to the camera and then his head just did the large Marge, like, that'd be pretty cool, right?
It would make even less sense, but it would be maybe more interesting.
Yeah. That was a bizarre choice. Strange. One of the few details of this movie where I'm like, what? Why did you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. But I liked, before the credits roll, we get these sort of like fake updates on where all these characters are. Like, I Googled, like, wait, was this based on a true story? No, it wasn't. But I think it was done so well in a way that it's like the best fake true story that you could see.
Yeah, it feels pretty believable. Other than maybe just being so wholesome and not, like that end credit scene, like real life, like two of those people are dead of one thing or another,
Oh, yeah. Fucking Lenny's gone.
Yeah.
And TB's gone.
Yeah. But TB has like a construction contracting thing.
Yeah.
So that's that thing you do. That thing we did.
Ooh.
It's a good movie.
It's great.
Yeah, I what is the cultural impact of this movie? Does anybody else ever talk about it or remember it?
You know what's interesting is I never think people know this movie, and then if I mention it, everybody that I've mentioned it to was like, "Yes, I used to love that movie." So I don't know. It would be interesting to kind of let's conduct a survey. Let's do some market research and write a report.
I'm just going to go walk down the street and be like a man on the street interview, but no camera. Just be like, have you ever seen that thing you do? You're like, get away from me.
Yeah, I don't know. I people who have seen it seem to really love this movie, and nobody really seems to mention it. I don't think it was that much of a splash. I don't think it made much of a splash, but I think people know it. I think people enjoy it. Like, you're right. The stakes aren't that high. This is super wholesome. There isn't anything super negative, which sometimes makes for a really boring, bland movie, but this avoids it somehow.
Yeah. This movie, budget $26 million, box office $34.5 million. So I think it sounds like it did well enough, but I mean, that's not like, huge cultural legacy numbers usually if you're just gonna base that on box office. Yeah, I think it's a really good family movie.
Yeah,
I think it's just very like upbeat. It's brightly colored. It's nice to look at. I think it's actually just like a pretty looking movie. Nice to look at that 60s aesthetic. Yeah, it's just a pleasant time with like enough. I think it's like, I think it's funny. I think like it's got moments of humor and levity to it that still hold up just fine.
I laughed out loud a lot watching this, actually, more than I thought I would, or more than I remember laughing when I saw it last.
Yeah, it's a good time. So I don't know if you've never seen it, it's worth watching. But I'm just, I guess I'm a little sad. It feels like this movie should have more of a reputation, I guess, than it does. But maybe it does, and just like everybody has seen it and they liked it, but just nobody ever thinks to bring it up. Maybe they just have to see it again and they'll be like, yeah, it's good. I've got no gimmick number to give this one. I'm just giving it, I'm going to say like 8 out of 10. It's like, you know what? It's kind of like it is a 10 out of 10 for that thing you do. Like it just is. I wouldn't change anything about this movie, so I don't, I couldn't offer any suggestions to how to make that number higher, but it is objectively an 8 out of 10 movie. Hopefully that makes sense. Go watch That Thing You Do. Go see young Tom Hanks. Go relive the 90s. You'll be happy.
Yeah, I agree.
And with that is it for this week's episode of Ex Post Watcho. Thank you very much for listening. We appreciate it. If you would like to get in contact with us, we have an email address. It's expostwatcho@gmail.com. We'd love to hear any disagreements you have with us over movies. If you think this movie should be like a 10 out of 10, objectively speaking, let us know. We're on Facebook and Instagram at expostwatcho. We're on YouTube. We'll be back next week while we watch The Sound of Music. All right. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good week, everybody.